Hey there, friends. My name's Matthew. I'm the C# artisan, and today I want to continue our conversation about AI, and specifically, I want to return to the topic of RAG. Now, a couple months ago, I did a video called What is RAG? And that was well received. I got a lot of great feedback. You all seemed to like it, but I also got a lot of questions. Some of you wanted me to go into a little more detail on the mechanics of RAG. You wanted to kind of see how it really works. And some of you asked, well, okay, that's nice, but what does it have to do with me? Like, how does this relate to the world of custom business applications? So today, I want to circle back and revisit this topic of RAG and go into a little more detail about how it works under the hood and what the steps are. And then I want to show how RAG can play a really important part in an AI-enabled custom business app. So that's what's on the menu. And what I want to do to start with is I want to think a little bit about AI-based applications in general. And we've all worked with them. There are many. There are the chatbots like ChatGPT and Claude. There are the AI-enabled search engines like Perplexity and CoPilot. And the important thing to know is that all of these applications are based on or built on top of large language models. And there are several of those as well. You've got the Gemini family, the GPT family, the Claude family. And I use the word family because each one of these has gone through multiple iterations and generations. So for example, the latest Gemini LLM is Gemini Pro. It's no longer called Lambda or Palm. So this distinction between the application and the LLM, that's important. They're not the same thing. And the application isn't just kind of a front end or UI to the LLM. It's actually adding a lot to it. When you enter a prompt into a chatbot or one of these search engines, it takes your prompt and it will refine it and add to it and frame it and send that to the LLM. And then the LLM returns its kind of raw response, which sometimes there's post-processing and the application will do things or polish it or sanitize it and send it back to you. So it's important to understand that the applications are really doing something. So this is the area where RAG comes into play. RAG is a piece of how you build one of these applications. And in the world of custom business apps, what we're really talking about is building a custom app, your application, which is a sibling to these other AI-enabled apps and can use RAG and can provide access to the power of the large language model through your app. So that's what we're going to take a look at today. The next thing I want to do, though, is just take one step back and think about how these apps work at a really high level. So let's just take a simple example. And let's say you are interacting with one of the chatbots. Let's say it's Claude, which, and maybe you're using the Claude 3.5 Sonnet LLM. And you ask Claude a question and you say, hey, Claude, tell me about utilitarianism. So Claude is going to provide a really nice answer for this. It'll explain that utilitarianism is a moral philosophy that judges the rightness or wrongness of actions based on their consequences, etc., etc. And it'll tell you about historical figures like Jeremy Bentham and John Stuart Mill. And in reality, if you ask this question to any of the AI-enabled chatbots or search engines, you're going to get a great answer. So why is that? It's because when these large language models like Claude 3.5 are built, they contain a ton of information about utilitarianism. I mean, utilitarianism didn't just happen yesterday. It's been going on since the 1700s. And so there's all of this information baked into the LLM. So all of them are going to give you a good answer. They're not likely to hallucinate. But what happens if you ask Claude this question? What is a banded dragonfish? Now, if you watch the first video, What is RAG, you'll recognize that I used the same example then. And if you ask this to Claude, it's going to give you this very good sounding answer about a fish, Coliotis sloani, which is temperate and lives in tropical oceans and has bioluminescence. And the problem is it's completely wrong. This is one well-articulated hallucination. It's just wrong. So why is that? Why does Claude do so badly with this question? To answer that, let's imagine that you're using a different tool. You're using Perplexity. Well, if you ask Perplexity, what is a banded dragonfish? It's going to give you an answer like this, a different species name. It's going to tell you that it inhabits the deep Antarctic waters, not tropical, in the Southern Ocean, and it's very limited distribution. It's not common, and importantly, it's newly discovered. And this discovery was reported on September 3rd, 2024. So this is correct. And the reason it's correct is that Perplexity, even though Perplexity is using Claude 3.5 and GPT-4, it is also pulling information that is more current through a RAG process. So let's unpack what Perplexity is doing. And this is where I'm going to kind of go a little stepwise and give you the flow diagram so you can really see what's happening. So the process begins and you ask Perplexity, what is a banded dragonfish? The next thing it does, before it talks to the LLM, is it does what is really a traditional web search. It basically does its equivalent of like a Google search, and it finds out the latest information. It pulls back a bunch of search results. Now, the particular search that Perplexity does is proprietary, isn't exactly the same as a Google search. They maintain their own indices, and there is an AI element to that. The key point here is that it is pulling data from a non-LLM source. So it's querying the web, then it takes those search results and it splices it in with your prompt. So you end up with something, I'm imagining, like, what is a banded dragonfish? Include this information in the response, and then it pastes in maybe the top 10 search results. And that is what gets fed into the underlying LLM, which then produces a lovely and correct natural language response. So this is the RAG part. RAG, retrieval augmented generation, is where you retrieve some data from the non-LLM source and use that to augment the prompt before you send it in for response generation. So that's RAG. So let's now talk about how this would play out with a custom business app. What is RAG in the world of this consulting work that I do and that many of us do? So to talk about this, it's helpful to have maybe a concrete example, fake, but still realistic. So imagine you have a company that sells and installs these cool little electronic gadgets that people have in their homes. And as part of this process of selling and installing them, you've got a whole fleet of technicians, of installers who are out there in the world doing this work. And one of them is sitting in their truck in front of somebody's house, and they're about to go in and do a job, and they want to make sure they do it right. So they open up the custom app and they ask it a question. What is the procedure for installing a left-handed smoke sifter? So if your custom app just goes straight to GPT-4, the answer that you get back is going to be a hallucination. It's not going to be your SOP for how you do this. It may not even know what a left-handed smoke sifter is. So you can't rely on GPT or Claude or any of them for the specific content. So first, your app is going to do a search in your internal document store. And this is where your SOPs are stored. It's going to pull that information and it's going to splice it into the prompt. So it's going to ask, what is the procedure for installing a left-handed smoke sifter? Refer strictly to these, and then it'll paste in the information from your internal document store. Then that gets fed down into some large language model. And I chose GPT-3 because at this point, we might not need the latest and greatest model. We just need it to kind of wordsmith the response for us. And so maybe we can save some money and downgrade and use an older LLM that will do just a fine job of synthesizing the response. And so then it's going to send the answer back. But before the next slide, let me just say, again, this is the RAG step. We are retrieving data from a non-LLM source and then splicing it in, augmenting our prompt before we generate the LLM answer. So what does your technician get? They get a response, maybe like this. Install a left-handed smoke sifter by following these steps as outlined in SOP, etc., etc. Remove the old sifter, attach the power cable, attach it to the mounting bracket with the 4 M11 socket head screws, attach the Molex, etc. Perform QC, and on down the line. Now, it's important to note that the body of this response is not just a verbatim copy-paste out of the SOP. The LLM kind of has read the SOP because the whole content was given to it. And so it is a natural language synthesis of that with linked references to the actual SOPs. So this is how a RAG-enabled business app would work. This is the value that you would get out of building something like that. So in summary, just to wrap up here, RAG stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. And you are augmenting the prompt with data from a non-LLM source. And in the world of business apps, this non-LLM data is some sort of internal data, such as SOPs, manuals, policies, maybe prior work product. Think about a law firm. Law firms generate thousands of documents, pleadings, and depositions. None of it is indexed in the LLM. All of it could be made available to an internal app to do some really nice natural language search. You also maybe could use database queries. So you maybe have CRM or other SQL Server databases that run your business and they have lots of information about your products and your customers and your activities. You can also use that kind of search to supplement the prompt. What kind of search would you use? Well, it does depend on whether you're dealing with SQL data or something behind an API or files. In many cases, you might be able to get away with building a full text index of your files and then doing a simple keyword search. That might do it. It doesn't have to be fancy. But there are AI-assisted techniques there where you can do an AI-assisted tokenization of your documents. And then AI participates in this process in two places. It's supporting the retrieval step of getting the right documents out, and it's producing the final result. So there are two AI steps in that case. And of course, with the database, you can also use AI. I've seen some nice demos where using a data dictionary, you could do really lovely natural language query that would then return SQL results. So there you have it. I think that about sums it up for a little bit of a more detailed exploration of RAG and how it works in the world of custom business apps. Now, what I really want to do is build one of these and do a technical live demo for you. And I'm working with one of my coworkers, and we'll see if we can pull something together. So look for that in the future, an actual demonstration of this. So I hope that helps you understand a little more about RAG. Hey there, C# friends. Are you enjoying these videos and finding them helpful? I hope so. And if you are, please go ahead and like the video on YouTube. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and feel free to leave a comment. I would love to hear from you. Hey there, C# friends. Are you enjoying these videos and finding them helpful? I hope so. And if you are, please go ahead and like the video on YouTube. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and feel free to leave a comment. I would love to hear from you.